where the person then, the force of his spirit doesn't think negatively or positively, it thinks neutral. And that's referred to as neutral positive, meaning that by thinking neutrally, you're going to have a positive effect on yourself. Okay? The spirit healer or healer is someone who through mental powers is able to help or even cure an ailing person. In most cases now, this is not a professional person. Generally on this planet right now, professional people who aspire to be doctors, psychiatrists, and psychologists and so forth generally do not subscribe to what we're talking about, which would be referred to as metaphysical thinking or spiritual thinking. They generally don't use these techniques. The reason for that is, if you go to college in our country or most countries, that you have to take the courses that they prescribe in order to get the degree. If you don't get the degree, then you can't have the title. If you don't have the title, you can't get customers. In order to be a doctor, you must take certain classes. You have to subscribe along with the standards set by the medical institution of whatever country you're in. And when you put your shingle out on the door, then you are given a set of guidelines by which you can operate. If you wish to, remain with the title that you have. If you want to be Dr. Whitworth or whatever it is, then you have to, use the methods that you learned in college, and you have to follow the guidelines prescribed to you by your American Medical Association, which tells you which drugs that you can sell and prescribe, which ones that you can't, which kinds of curing or healing techniques that you are allowed to use, and which ones you cannot. This is dictated to the doctors. So the doctors in most cases don't have a lot to say so, especially in today's market, in today's society in America, where we're so attorney crazy. If a doctor were to actually try something, border science idea, like try to affect cancer with ozone or hydrogen peroxide, or one of these border science ideas which do prove quite useful in many cases, he can lose his license. Oddly enough, there are many doctors even in jail right now because they tried things like this. So it's our legal system leaves something to be desired in this area for sure. It's a shame that many people, I would say, many potential cures and ways of making people feel better are suppressed in our country strictly out of economics. But in any case, that's the main reason why most of these doctors don't use these methods. The other is just ignorance, and by that I mean ignorant of the information. These are not ignorant people. For the most part, people who put their energy into becoming a professional doctor, whatever, are very intelligent people. They have to be to pass all the classes and gain the knowledge. Okay? But on the other hand, because that there is no professionalism really in spirituality and metaphysics and so forth, there are many people claiming that they can do things and are complete charlatans. We have to watch out for that also. Because there are no requirements, licensing, studies involved to go out and call yourself a spirit healer. All that's really necessary is you go down to the local print store and get some cards made up and maybe tell somebody that you can cure them, and they'll say, sure, give it a try. They figure they got nothing to lose because you're not going to stick anything in them, make them take anything or whatever. And generally the person will, do some form of whatever they do, but most people really are not aware. They probably mean well, but they're probably not very effective either. So we have to be careful of unscrupulous people who would take advantage of us. It's one thing if someone who believes they have some ability or some power to help another, because actually we all do. If they're not charging for it, then it's fine. But beware of the individual who suddenly is charging a lot. If they are, let's get some references. If someone wants to charge heavily to perform some sort of spirit healing on you, I would suggest you talk to someone else they performed that on, and make sure in your own mind that you have the potential of probably getting some good satisfaction here. Healing through prayer, is that possible? Yes, it is. The reason is that we talk about the force of the Spirit. Okay, well, if you believe in prayer, if this has become part of you, and you put great strength into that, then your spirit does reinforce that. So even though prayer generally is a call outward, out to some other source, a person who believes strongly in that actually can have effect on themselves. So prayer can be also a potential way of helping to one's own self. Okay, the information that Billy put into this book this is not a book like a story or whatever, and it's as a book, it's frankly not even written that well. By that I mean it's not laid out well, and it is just 60, 70 pages of information about the spirit, about how we heal and protect ourselves, and about how we form the spirit, and how we develop that psyche, that feeling and thinking center of our material brain. So I'm going to go through the ideas, and towards the end on the next tape, I'm going to give you some ideas on how you can go about through step-by-step developing a lot of things yourself. That's not in the book, so I'll have to kind of I'm going to go through that and add that part on myself. Billy's book does not go to the extent of actually showing you practically how to do things. There are no exercises and so forth. There are simply explanations of what you have to learn. And that's not really very simple, as you're going to see and hear about. There's a lot of new ideas contained in here. So I'll try to provide you some sort of explanation of exercises and examples you can go through to actually work on these things yourself. Okay? The purpose, of course, of this information in this little book that he wrote was to achieve health, a good life, and trust in yourself. To achieve these goals, we're going to have to follow a path of knowledge and the practical uses that it brings about. Your recognition and knowledge derived from this information will provide a correct way of thinking according to the laws of nature. Now, this may be new to most of you. We talked earlier about the laws of creation. The laws of creation primarily being concerned with the formation of the universe and all life within it, and the growth, expansion, and contraction of the universe. These laws, or logic, in other words, dictate exactly what the universe is doing and all life forms in it. It dictates, how the life form like us lives in a material and a spiritual life. It lays down the matrix or the logic of how everything functions in the universe. Then within that there is nature itself. And nature has its own set of guidelines and rules that also pertain to other things. And what we're going to be talking about here, and what Billy refers to as these laws of nature, is how beings like us react with our environment, our surroundings, and the nature that we live in. There are certain things which are laws, or we should say logic, by which the nature itself works. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on achieving a correct perception of life in the world around us. And this information can be applied to our daily life, and that's how we're going to get results. This is very practical information. I wouldn't consider it theory, at least that's what Billy says. He considers this very practical, absolute, logical information. So it's the sort of information that you're going to listen to. You'll listen to an idea or two, and you probably want to stop at each point, think about the ideas that I'm going to explain to you, apply them, try them out, and make them part of yourself. If you're currently following ideas or standards that psychology lays down about how to live your life and how to think, you're going to find a lot of differences here. I would suggest, after listening to this tape, if you decide that you want to follow these concepts and principles and work on your own spiritual development, that you set aside any other particular ideas of psychology and psychiatry that you may be using at the time. Set those aside, because as you're going to hear, they are not in agreement with this way of thinking. Of course, on the other hand, I'm always very open-minded. You may come up with some great mixture of psychiatry and spirituality, which could be a major breakthrough for all of us. So if you do, let me know about that. After all, an open mind is a sign of intelligence. Okay. The lesson on hand is the teaching of the absolute cause and effect of the logic of the laws of nature. When you have what are called laws of anything, they're actually logical things. That means the way things work. So there's always cause and effect going on. Because something is so, because that's just the way it actually is, and there's cause and effect all throughout life, nature, and throughout all of the universe. What we're really after here is we're going to learn how to kind of maintenance of the mind. We're going to learn how to control our thinking and ourself so we can control our destiny, our future. Okay? To be successful at this, you're going to have to put some time into it, think about these ideas. You're going to have to make kind of a study of it. First, you're going to learn a lot about yourself,